If you can dance this waltz, I'll marry you." She said it with a smirk so sharp it could have cut glass, swirling champagne like she owned the whole world. And maybe she did, or at least she thought she did. The chandeliers above seemed to freeze, and so did the laughter of Manhattan's finest. That ballroom had seen plenty of secrets swept under marble floors, but nothing like this. At her center was Veronica Kane, 40 years old, powerful, draped in midnight velvet diamonds like icicles on her ears. She was untouchable, or so everyone believed. And crouched at her feet among the shards of a shattered crystal vase was me, a janitor. One knee on the ground, one arm wrapped around my daughter's shoulders, making sure no glass cut her little legs. She was only 7. She whispered, "Daddy, I didn't mean to," and I told her calm as stone, "It's okay, Emma." When I looked up straight into Veronica's eyes, the whole room changed. I wasn't supposed to. People like me were supposed to bow, apologize, maybe beg. But I didn't. I looked at her without fear. My uniform was faded, my hands bleeding, my back sore from long nights, but my posture, it still remembered another life. "You'll marry me. For a dance." I asked, my voice low enough that it felt like a dare. A ripple of laughter rolled across the room. Someone clinked a glass. Veronica arched one eyebrow, amused at my audacity. "Why not?" she said. "We all need entertainment tonight." I stood, helped Emma step aside. Blood dripped down my palm, but I didn't care. I told her. "But not for your hand. I'll dance because you think humiliation is funny." The room hushed. Even her entourage shifted uncomfortably. But Veronica waved her hand at the orchestra. "Play," she ordered. "Let's get this over with." The violins began a slow Viennese waltz, and I closed my eyes. Not for drama, not to impress anyone, but like a man remembering a language he hadn't spoken in years. Then I moved. At first, just small steps, controlled. The music pulled something buried deep inside. My feet remembered every night on Broadway stages, every rehearsal with my late wife. The pain, the discipline, the love, it all lived in my body still. And slowly that ballroom packed with billionaires and board members stopped seeing a janitor. They saw someone else. Every pivot, every glide wasn't for applause. It was to remind them that dignity doesn't come with a paycheck. It comes from refusing to let life break you. 3 minutes later, I stopped exactly on time. No bow, no flourish, just silence, then applause. At first hesitant, then swelling. Not for me, but for the truth they'd just witnessed. Veronica's smirk had vanished. For the first time, she looked small. I walked toward the exit where Emma had gone. But before leaving, I said loud enough for her to hear, "I don't need your hand. But maybe you should ask yourself what it costs to look down on people who know how to rise." The next morning, the city tried to move on. Coffee cups, clinked limos, rolled down Fifth Avenue, but whispers spread like wildfire. Who was that man? Just a janitor. No one dances like that unless he's trained. My name was on every gossip page, twisted headlines about Cinderella in reverse, a CEO proposing to her custodian. Veronica sat in her tower pretending not to care, but I knew better. She was rattled. You could see it in the way her assistant fumbled, in the way she stared out of her glass windows longer than usual. Because she hadn't expected me to own the room without raising my voice, without begging for her approval. And yet that wasn't the end. Days later, she appeared where no CEO ever does the maintenance corridor at 6 a.m. "I looked you up," she said, eyes sharp but softer than I remembered. "You used to be a dancer. Gabriel Stone, Broadway's brightest flame." I kept my gaze steady. "That was a long time ago. You could have destroyed me," she admitted, "but you didn't." "Why?" "Because you're not my enemy," I told her. "You were just a mirror, and I wanted you to see what you really looked like." She flinched at that, but she didn't leave. "Teach me," she said finally. "Not how to look graceful, how to stop performing." So I did. Not in gilded ballrooms, but in dusty corridors with flickering lights. She showed up in sneakers, sweating, stumbling, muttering curses under her breath. I told her, "Performing is when the world's watching. Dancing is when you finally stop caring if it is. At first she hated it. But then something shifted. She laughed when she tripped. She stopped hiding behind power suits. She began to move like someone remembering they had a heart. One night she came to Emma's school fundraiser, sat quietly in the back row as Emma and I waltzed together under crooked banners and flickering gym lights. I didn't dance like a professional, I danced like a father. And the way Veronica's eyes misted, I knew she saw something that her boardroom had never given her: humility. But her world wasn't ready. At the next board meeting, her CFO leaned in, silver hair gleaming, and said, "This thing with the janitor, it looks messy." Veronica didn't blink. "You know what's actually messy," she said. "Pretending dignity comes with a salary. Pretending art belongs to the elite. Pretending the man who scrubs these floors is less human than the man sitting at this table." The room went silent. Some bristled, some shifted. And for once, Veronica Kane chose humanity over her reputation. That night, she found me fixing a light bulb in the lobby. "I may have scorched a few egos," she admitted. I chuckled. "Good. Maybe they needed burning." From that day, she kept showing up. At community rehearsals, at small fundraisers, at the gritty corners of life she once ignored. And I started to see her differently. Not as the woman who mocked me, but as someone willing to strip away her armor and learn. Of course, it wasn't easy. Headlines called her reckless. Donors pulled support. She almost backed out of one benefit event, too scared of scandal. But that night I danced with Emma anyway in front of a packed room. Phones filmed it, tears flowed, and the video went viral. Veronica sat in her car watching from the outside. Later, she sent me a note, shaky handwriting that didn't sound like her at all. "I was afraid of a scandal, but now I'm more afraid of what you'll never say again if I stop listening." So we met again on a rooftop, this time the city sprawling below. She whispered, "I spent my life building towers, but none of them made me feel safe." "Then maybe it's time to stop building," I told her, "and start dancing." And we did. No orchestra, no spotlight, just footsteps echoing against concrete and the wind catching our breath. For the first time, she wasn't a CEO. She was just a woman learning how to move through something instead of around it. Months later, she stepped down from her empire and started a foundation for kids who'd been told they didn't belong in art, in movement, in life. I watched her kneel beside children with holes in their shoes and tell them they deserved rhythm too. And somewhere along the way, we found ourselves not just dancing, but choosing each other. Our wedding wasn't lavish. No marble halls, no photographers. Just a small garden behind the community center, Emma, in a flower crown, declaring proudly, "I'm not the flower girl, I'm the middle." And when I held Veronica's hands and spoke my vows, I told her I used to think love was about finding someone who fit my silence. But you gave it music. That's the thing. Love doesn't always arrive with fireworks or headlines. Sometimes it sneaks in through a challenge you never expected, through a waltz meant to humiliate, but that turned into a lifetime of truth. Now I'll leave it to you. What do you think? Was Veronica brave for changing or weak for mocking me in the first place? Do people really change, or do they just remember who they were before the world told them who to be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if this one touched you, subscribe so you don't miss the next. Because in this messy, broken world, sometimes all we need is a waltz to remind us we're still alive.